Okay, today we're using polynomial synthetic division. So again, we're trying to divide polynomials, just like yesterday when you did long division, but today we're using a different method, which is called synthetic. Synthetic division can be used to factor or divide polynomials when the divisor is a binomial. Okay, so we can only use it when the divisor is a binomial. So we're talking about x minus k form, and again we're talking about the divisor, which is this guy. Okay, so we're going to look at what was done here on the left. This is actually synthetic division already done for you, and we're going to write in our own words what is it that happened in each step. Okay, so we're dividing 5x cubed plus 17x squared plus 7x plus 3 divided by x plus 3. Okay, so the first step, it looks like we had x plus 3, which is our divisor, and we rewrote it as x minus negative 3. Again, we're trying to get it into this form, so we can say that we're trying to determine the value for k. Okay, so we rewrote the divisor to determine the value for k. In this case, we're going to say it's negative 3. Step 2, we're writing the synthetic division method. Okay, so if you see here, we have 5, 17, 7, and 3. And those are the numbers that are the coefficients for each term. So we just wrote those right here. And then we put in negative 3, which is our k value. Okay, so we can say we put the value for k in the box and put the coefficients to the right of it. Okay, so in here we have the value of k and the coefficients to the right of it from the terms right here. Okay, which is our dividend, right? Okay, step 3. Let me scroll down. It looks like we have this arrow and we brought down a 5, and then somehow we got negative 15. And my guess is we multiplied negative 3 by 5 to get negative 15. So we can say, bring down the first coefficient, 5, or whatever number is there, then multiply by negative 3, and put the result in the next column. Okay, so bring down the first number, multiply it by this number in the box, and then place it here in the next column. Okay, that is what the next thing that looks like we did. Okay, now we have a 5 here, we have negative 15. How did I get a 2? Looks like I added. Looks like I'm adding here. So 17 plus negative 15 is 2. And then I have negative 6 in the next column, which means I did 2 times negative 3 to get the negative 6. So I'm going to erase to show you my next step. Ooh, sorry. Add the values in the second column. Then multiply the sum by negative 3 and put the result in the next column. Okay, so then I go to this column. This looks different. 7 plus, again, I notice I'm adding. 7 plus negative 6 is 1. 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. So again, I followed that same process. Repeat step 4. Add the values in the third column, then multiply the sum by negative 3 and put the result in the next column. Step 6, again I added 1, I put that column there, so I have negative 3 and negative 3 from before. I add together and I get 0. Add the last column and put the sum in the box, and it's 0. Okay. And then the final step, if we look at it, okay, we have 5, 2, 1, and a 0 here. And what this represents is we were trying to divide out x plus 3, which is x minus negative 3, and we're left with 5x squared plus 2x plus 1 with a remainder of 0. Okay. Write the quotient. Begin writing the quotient with a power of x that is 1 less, and that is important, 1 less than the greatest power of x in the dividend. Okay, so if we came up here, we had 5x cubed, so we're going to have 1 less than that, which is x squared. And the last number represents the remainder. So anything in this little box, the last one is going to be our remainder. Okay, and that is how we do synthetic division. So we would say if we took our dividend divided by our divisor, our final answer would be 5x squared plus 2x plus 1. And we have no remainder for this one. Okay? Let's go to the next page and try it on our own. Now that we know the steps, and you're going to have to refer back to them until you get the hang of it, but I'm going to do letter B with you. Okay, so the first thing is I need to find my k, and it's x minus k, so it's going to just be 8. Then I'm going to write my leading coefficients. So I have negative 10, I have 83, negative 26, and 6. I'm going to leave space because I know I'm going to put some numbers here. Try to write a straighter line for you. Okay. First step is I bring the first number down, so I'm going to bring a negative 10 here, and then I multiply these two to give me negative 80. And then if you want, you can put a little addition here because you know you're going to be adding. So I end up with 3. Then I multiply 3 times 8 to give me 24. I add and I get negative 2. Negative 2 times 8 is negative 16. So I have a remainder of negative 10. So my quotient is negative, and I think 1 less than x cubed, so x squared plus 3x minus 2, and my remainder is negative 10. All right, so what does this all mean? We want to write remainder notation, which you can remember from the long division video. We have the polynomial here, the quotient, and we just put remainder negative 10. Or we can write it in polynomial notation, and we would take that negative 10 over your divisor, which was x minus 8. All right, let's do a couple more. It's already written out. We have 6, 12, 0, and 9. Why do we have a 0 here? Because this 6 goes here, and this 12 goes here, but I notice I'm missing an x term, so I must put a 0 in that place, just like we put a 0x in the place for long division. And now I can do my synthetic. I bring down my 6, I multiply, negative 12, I add, I get 0, 0 times negative 2 is 0, I add, I get 0, 0 times negative 2 is 0, I add, and I get 9. So I'm going to end up with 1 less, so I have 6x squared plus nothing, right? There's nothing here except for my remainder, which then goes over the divisor. All right, what happens if I have a binomial with an a with a term here in front? Okay, it could be like an ax minus k. We actually have to think about 2x minus 1 equals 0, and if I solve for x, I would get 1/2, right? So I have to use 1/2 right here in my box, and then I can follow the same steps. So I bring down my 6, multiply it by 1/2, which is 3. I get negative 12. Negative 12, half of negative 12 is negative 6. I get 54. Half of 54 is 27. I add to get 5. And I can write my answers 3x squared minus 6x plus 27 plus my remainder divided by my divisor for my polynomial notation. Okay. Certain things you want to remember. Number 1, polynomials must be in standard form, just like when we did long division. Okay, must be in standard form from decreasing degree. All terms must be included, so if you have an x to the 4th, then you must have an x to the 3rd. If there isn't an x to the 3rd term, write 0 for the missing term. Repeat the process of multiply and add until you determine the remainder. Step 4, write the quotient with a power of x that is 1 less than the greatest power of x in the dividend. And step 5, the last number represents the remainder. If the remainder is 0, then the divisor is a factor of the dividend. Okay, it's an exact factor. There's no remainder necessary. All right. And that is it for this lesson.